Choosing the best board games for toddlers and preschoolers that everyone can enjoy on family game night no longer has to be a challenge. I've tested out, researched, and played with 20 games for kids, and I'm going to whiz through them in this video. There's also a blog post version of this video if you want to go back into any of the games in more detail, or in that blog post there is price comparisons to quickly shop across a ton of different retailers so you get the best deal. In the description box below, I will leave some links though to quickly shop these, as well as chapters. If you guys are new here, my name's Rachel from The Confused Mom. Welcome to my channel. I share baby and toddler product reviews, activities, as well as Montessori at home tips, and I am a mom to a 4-year-old and almost 2-year-old. So first up, we're going to talk about the best board games for 2-year-olds and up. And these are definitely going to be your more basic ones. Like if you don't have a 2-year-old in the house, I would probably skip these because honestly, they get a little boring pretty quickly. But the most popular board games for 2-year-olds out there are definitely Haba's My Very First Board Games line, with the number one of those being the First Orchard Cooperative board game. Basically, you all work together, taking turns rolling the dice and then placing the matching colored fruit into the basket. If you roll a basket, you can choose any color fruit. This is very strictly for those that are working on color matching and taking turns. Toddlers will probably get bored with this game by the time they're 4 years old, but you can still use some of the fruits in like other pretend playscapes, so that's good because it's not going to go totally unused. I'd say the next most popular board game for 2-year-olds is going to be Monkey Around, which I definitely prefer a little bit more because not only is it a cooperative board game, actually all of the 2-year-old board games are cooperative, but it helps get those toddler wiggles out, and it teaches them how to listen to commands related to their body, which if you've ever had a 2-year-old, you know is very important when it comes to crossing the street, getting dressed, getting out of the house, putting on shoes, all that good stuff. So not only is it like a fun way to connect with your kid, it's also teaching a really good transferable skill for the everyday life and interactions you're gonna have with them. Basically, you take turns drawing a monkey card, and then you do whatever action is on the card. And once you finish it, you add the card to the tree, and once the tree is full of monkeys, it is over. This game is very simple, but it's a very short game. There's not a ton of spots to fill in, so at least it moves pretty quickly. You can play it in like 5 minutes depending on how cooperative your 2-year-old is being, and I have found that despite it being very suited for 2-year-olds, like my 4-year-old loves to play this game, so it's something that they will keep wanting to do as the years goes on, especially if they have little siblings, because then they get to kind of play teacher and showing them how to imitate the different actions on the cards. Though I will say, in the early 2-year-old days with my first, she was not interested in this game. She really just loved the little banana toy and thought watching me and her dad was funny. Around 2.5 is when she got into the formal instruction of the game. The next game is going to be the Friends and Neighbors matching game, and again, it's a cooperative board game. I definitely think it's a little bit better suited for like 2.5 to 4.5-year-olds, but basically you guys will take turns reaching your hand into a bag full of tokens, pull one out, and then you look around the board to see where the token matches up to. Tokens are going to be different little things that somebody on the board will need for help in whatever situation they're facing. So I think it's also just such a great way to teach young toddlers about organizing information in their head that they face on a day-to-day basis. So like reinforcing different things. Dying plants need water. A boo-boo on the knee needs a band-aid. I also love that they can play this game alone or with you. It's a nice little just different spin on traditional matching games, which I feel like a lot of toddlers start to get into around 2 years old. Next up is going to be the board games for 3-year-olds. First is going to be Pete the Cat and the Missing Cupcakes. I'm pretty sure this is a TV show episode. If not, there is a book that goes with this too. It's definitely one of our favorites. It's kind of like a step up from Monkey Around, if you will, to match your child's development. So basically what you got to do is Grumpy Toad stole all the cupcakes, and now you have to go ahead working together, so it's still a cooperative game, taking turns moving your pieces around the board and then doing the different actions of each spot you land on. And with each successful activity that you do, you earn a cupcake back from the Grumpy Toad. I love it. There's a Charades card where you guys all work together, and let me tell you, 3 and 4-year-olds love charades, which is another game that's not on this list, but like should be. It's easy to learn. No reading is required. Kids, once they play it with you a few times, would easily be able to pick this up and just play it with other kids, even if none of them can read. Count Your Chickens is definitely one of the most popular toddler board games, and kids can play this on their own as there's no reading instructions. Basically, you spin the dial and then move the mama hen piece to the matching spot on the board game. And you count the number of spaces you moved and collect that many baby chicks. The goal here is to work together to collect all of the baby chicks and get them back into the coop before mama hen gets home. What I love about this game is that it teaches the foundations of playing board games for a lot of more complex ones down the road. So like learning the importance of counting spaces that you can't skip. This is definitely like a good transitional board game from like 2 to 3 years old, although I don't think it's the most fun after a while. There's definitely more fun ones. But overall, I would say it's like a good one. It's a step above the first Orchard game that we talked about for 2-year-old. Next is going to be Snug as a Bug in the Rug, which is a customizable cooperative board game for toddlers and preschoolers. So there's 3 different levels that you can play this at to match where your child is at. The objective is to get the different colorful bugs snug under the rug before the stink bugs make it to the top of the board. This game is definitely more fun than Count Your Chickens, and I love that they have the custom challenge levels to grow with your child as they get older. However, if your child is closer to 4 years old, then I would heavily suggest going with Hoot Owl Hoot, which is by far my absolute favorite toddler and preschooler game out there. And I get very competitive, even though it's a cooperative board game, but it's a lot of fun. We'll talk about that in a minute. So basically, in this game, the stink bugs are not used until the very end when you're almost out of matches. So it's really easy to lose this game. It's good at building up resilience, but it's just not a ton of fun. The Sneaky Snacky Squirrel game, which is not a cooperative board game. However, it works color matching, it works critical thinking and problem solving skills, and I personally just find it to be a lot more fun and it's going to last a lot longer. It also works like hand-eye coordination and fine motor skills. So basically kids take turns flicking the spinner, and then whatever space you land on, you follow through with that. So if you just get a single color, you get that single color acorn, and you have to use this little squirrel tweezer thing to pick up the acorn and put it into your wood log. If you already have that color, you skip your turn. Now, if you land on a sneaky squirrel, you can steal somebody else's acorn. So there's definitely some strategy involved, which is really fun for adults who are playing too, because some of these cooperative games in the under 3-year-old range can get a little boring. Now, of course, playing competitive board games under the age of 6 is a very controversial subject, so definitely choose what you want to do with that. All of the skills it's working, I do think, are worth introducing, especially because it teaches kids some resilience. Like when I steal my daughter's acorn versus my husband's acorn, like she's disappointed, she's upset, she has to learn how to work through that and be a team player. There's definitely some pros and cons to it. I prefer to have the majority of our board games be cooperative, but I don't think having like 1 or 2 competitive board games in this age range is necessarily a bad thing, especially if it means like you guys are actually having more fun, because some of the cooperative ones can get a little boring. Next is going to be Pancake Pile Up, which is a really fun sequencing game, but you can also use the different pieces for open-ended play, which is a big reason why I love it. It is technically a competitive game, but you can also do it cooperatively. You can kind of make up your own rules with it. There are 2 sets of all of the pieces, and there are different cards, and basically you pick a card and then you are supposed to race to see who can stack their pancakes to match the card the fastest. Depending on the age and skill of your child, from there you can have them try to walk their entire pancake stack across the room and back without it falling over. So you get to work like gross motor here, early math concepts. All in all, like it is a super affordable game and definitely one of our favorites, even when we don't play it as the rules intended. And if we're playing it with multiple people, you can always work on teams. We've also done it cooperatively where my daughter and I are playing together on the same team, meaning she does one pancake layer, then I do the next, then she does the next, then I do the next, and we race like a sand timer. Again, there's a lot of ways to take this either competitively or cooperatively that I just love. I'm not going to cover all of the 3-year-old board games that I reviewed in the blog post version of this because I covered 10 of them and I think that would just be like a really long video. Definitely head over to the blog post for more. Then when it comes to board games for 4 to 5-year-olds, number 1 favorite one, I already mentioned it, it's gonna be Hoot Owl Hoot. It is a cooperative board game that is actually a ton of fun. Kind of similar to Snug as a Bug in a Rug, it does have 3 different levels, challenge levels that you can play at. And the objective here is to get all of the owls back into their nest before the sun rises up. Players take turns drawing cards. When that card is played, you can move any of the owls on the board, because you remember you guys are all working together, to that color spot. And if you land on a spot that has a different owl, it bumps things forward. So there's actually a ton of strategy involved in this when you think about it, because you don't want one owl to fall all the way behind. And then if you move a certain owl, you could actually have a chain reaction of up to of 5 other owls moving together. That's where I kind of end up getting like really competitive because I just get very into the strategy. I have to rein myself in sometimes. You guys have to talk to each other to teach your kid how to build up some more strategy. And there's also like a fine line between pushing your kid into too much strategy and letting them do whatever they want in it. I look at it as a better version of the classic game Candyland, if you will. Like I said, adults like to play it. So if you have older kids in the house, I definitely think everyone will have fun with that one. Next one's gonna be Race to the Treasure, which is still a cooperative board game. However, it does introduce the concept of winners and losers. So what I mean by that is the objective is to beat the ogre to the treasure. So here we actually have a named opponent, whereas like in Hoot Owl Hoot or Count the Chickens, our opponent really is time, which is like, I guess, another nice time management skill lesson for you. But here we actually have this is who we're battling against and defeating. Basically, you take turns rolling the dice and figure out where you're going to put different keys and ogre snacks on the board before you officially start playing. And then once the game is set up, players take turns pulling a card from the draw pile. If it's an ogre card, you place it on the path. And if it's a path card, you guys decide collectively where you want the next step of the path to go. Once you collect 3 keys and reach the treasure, you win. If you land on an ogre snack, you get to take one of the ogres off the board. There's a lot of moving pieces to this where we're definitely getting into some more complex concepts. Definitely better suited for like a 4.5, 5 years old, a little bit older. Another really good one is Outfoxed, which is still a cooperative game, but it's more of like a whodunit one. Also a little bit better suited for the 5 and up crowd. And you're going to try to figure out who stole Mrs. Plumpert's prized pot pie. Each game is going to be different because a new suspect is chosen each time. It's a totally different experience. It's not like once you figure it out one time, you're done. And it really is just a ton of fun for the whole family. Another one of my childhood favorites is actually Mancala. I remember being in preschool and playing this one. And the objective is to have the most stones in your bank at the end of the game. This is technically a competitive game, but it's really good for teaching counting and strategy. Like, this has been one of my favorite games literally since I was like 4 years old. And it's definitely one that's going to last for many, many, many years to come. And the loose parts can be used in various activities, as well as the board itself can be used for various activities. And the next one I want to talk about is Wildcraft, which is a cooperative herbal adventure board game. It is fun for the entire family. It will last for years. It's kind of like Chutes and Ladders meets botany without the need for reading skills. In this game, kids learn about different edible and medicinal plants, including where to grow them and how to use them. So players use the plants to counter different trouble cards. The waterfalls on the board are kind of like a ladders from Chutes and Ladders. It's an expensive game, but there's so many different like homeschool bonus add-ons that the makers of the game actually provide with printable readings, colorings, and even different pages that you can go ahead and do and talking to your kid about this stuff. It's definitely like if you're a crunchy mom or have somebody crunchy in your life, it's one that they will love to bring into their home and do together with their kids. So kind of in short, if you have a 2-year-old, my picks are definitely going to be Monkey Around. If you have like an older 2-year-old that's about to be 3, I would probably get Pete the Cat and the Missing Cupcakes. 10/10 recommend those for the littles. Once your kid is more in that 3 and 4-year-old zone, Hoot Owl Hoot, one of my favorites. Pancake Pile Up, super versatile. So if your kid ends up just not being into board games until a little bit older, waste the money. And then for the older kids, Outfoxed is definitely one of my favorites. I think it's just a ton of fun for the whole family, and it's going to be more affordable than Wildcraft, even though I think Wildcraft, if you have a homeschooling family, Wildcraft 100%, but again, it's pricey. Drop me a comment below with which of these board games you're most excited to try, or what your family's favorite board game is. Help each other out with some more ideas. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, hit that subscribe and notification bell so you don't miss future videos. In the meantime, go back, check out my past gift guide reviews, and until next time, my name is Rachel. Have a good one.